How medical cannabis laws impact mental health. Study finds positive effects of the liberalization of medical cannabis. In recent years, the legal status of cannabis has become successively less restrictive. In the U.S., access to cannabis has been facilitated in most states since the mid-1990s, whether through medical clearance or through decriminalization of recreational use. However, the liberalization of cannabis is still controversial. While some fear negative consequences from addiction, others highlight the potential medical benefits for people suffering from chronic pain, nausea, or seizures. Whether medical benefits outweigh the potential negative consequences due to recreational abuse is still debated. This study investigated the effects of access to cannabis on mental health. The analysis assesses whether medical cannabis in the U.S. benefits from those groups for which the laws are designed, such as people with certain medical conditions, including those who experience chronic pain. Evaluation of the overall population additionally studies if negative effects through, for example, diversions and addictions dominate medical benefits or not. Researchers analyzed data from nearly 8 million individuals, focusing on the number of days with poor mental health per month. The study did not find any evidence of negative effects on mental health with eased access to cannabis. Overall reduction in poor mental health days was not statistically significant for the general population. The story changes, however, when looking specifically at medical cannabis consumers. In states that adopted medical cannabis laws, medical cannabis consumers experience an improvement in mental health, reporting fewer days per month with poor mental health. The estimates suggest that this group spends 0.3 days less per month in poor mental health due to changes in the law. These findings inform the public and the scientific discourse, debating the trade-off between the values of cannabis as medicine and the risk of uncontrolled recreational use. From an economic standpoint, improved mental health could lead to higher productivity, reduced absenteeism, and lower health costs, especially for the millions suffering from chronic pain. Moreover, as medical cannabis is considered a viable substitute for more addictive substances like opioids, eased access may indirectly help curb the opioid crisis. So we often hear of the potential negative effects of cannabis, such as the relative risk of psychosis or concerns of driving while intoxicated. There continues to be cost and effort in studying these potential harms without producing clear evidence of negative effect. This study proposes the opposite. It finds that cannabis use is both cost-effective and beneficial, at least for those who use it for medical attention. All right, this is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News. What do you think about this study on mental health?
Man, there's a lot to unpack with this, Dr. T.
Sorry, so early in the morning.
Yeah.
We should have had Rico go first with his fluff piece.
Well, Rico is finishing something up, and he'll be with us shortly, Jenny Beth.
I mean, I think this is awesome. I think any studies relating to mental health and cannabis use, obviously, it's been helpful. We've talked about my struggles previously. It's something that's been really helpful in me. So I'm excited to see any studies that can push it forward and increase access and availability and maybe more understanding amongst the medical community, because I think fear is a large reason why you got to go to Dr. Talleyrand, and very few people know what he knows and can prescribe to you because they're scared to learn about it because they don't get it. So it's always amazing to me how brilliant people freak out when they're like, wait, I don't understand that. So,
I think the shot at Nora Volkow, the NIDA, who's constantly coming out with statements or studies showing the negative effects, and it's basically saying, "Hey, overall, it's a positive thing."
Mm-hmm. Dr. T, why do they always focus so much on this addiction component? Because, to my understanding, there's no addictive components in cannabis.
Well, THC is believed to be addictive by scientists. It does
But
set off.
they haven't proven that to be addictive, and all the stuff that I've read says that there are no addictive compounds in cannabis.
Well,
You say shit all the time. That's not proven, though, Jason. Doesn't mean that
I'm asking the doctor the question.
You have to define addiction. It's not such a clear definition. If you define addiction as triggering the dopamine response, and wanting to go back over and over again, even when you don't need it, then some psychologists have felt that patients have gone into that and into that pattern, and they call that cannabis use disorder, because you want to stop but you can't. But for most people that I have run into, they don't want to stop, so we don't even get to that question. They're finding benefit in it. They're not finding negative. Their lives are better. And I guess what we're seeing from this study is the same, that at least when it comes to mental health, those who are using it all the time seem to be doing better, less poor mental health days.
Interesting. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Mark?
Whoever told you THC wasn't addictive, the scientists say it is.
The scientists.
CBD, no.
Interesting.
You can be addicted to water, so it's really a behavioral thing.
I would say, just as being a human being, you have to be addicted to water.
Addiction is a positive thing too. It's not necessarily all negative.
Okay.
Right, like Diet Coke.
System for a reason.
Oh boy. What do you have to say about this, Dr. Mark?
Well, addiction is very complex. I mean, there is a level of what's referred to as chemical dependency, like with nicotine, there is, a craving and a withdrawal and all of that basically is the hallmarks of addiction, right? Which is a chemical dependency that your body has on the intake of this exogenous substance, whatever it is, whether it's cannabis or alcohol. I think, again, Dr. T mentioned the dopamine network that's in the brain, which is the reward system, like when you eat like chocolate and you feel good about it. I mean, that's part of that whole reward system. Certainly that plays into that, but the brain is so complex and there's so many things at action. I mean, one of the things with like opiate withdrawal, for example, and I think Dr. T can probably agree with me on this, is that where the opiate receptors are is in brainstem function. So yes, could you like die from opiate withdrawal or opiate overdose because what's driving the regular beat of your heart and the regular action of your lungs, your life critical functions, the cannabinoids just don't act on those functions. So that's one of the reasons why the body can tolerate such a higher dose of cannabinoids versus a higher dose of opiates, right? Because it has to do with the biochemical targets that are in our body where these compounds are acting on. So again, just going back to the definition of addiction and thinking about chemical dependency, when you suffer withdrawal, I mean, again, your body is literally craving that compound. So that is an addiction. With THC withdrawal, I think those of us who've had to, occasionally dry out for whatever, a piss test or whatever, sometimes COVID, or, your body just isn't consuming cannabis, you'll know that your body does kind of reset itself, especially with your tolerance, right? Because what you used to smoke at a much higher quantity, now you can just take one bomb rip and all of a sudden you're, high school high again, You don't really have a dependence, right, Dr. T? Like when you think about dependence, like your body needs that to survive. You've seen people withdraw from heroin and opiates. It's terrible. And you could die just from the withdrawal process. I think Jerry Garcia was in trying to get clean, and part of it was the withdrawal. I mean, he had sleep apnea and a whole bunch of other
His
conditions.
liver wasn't doing good either.
A defining aspect of addiction having to do with your body actually now craving that substance just to stay alive and just to be functioning.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're confusing addiction and dependence.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
addiction.
I think they're related, though. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
So right, addiction is about, like Dr. T was saying, the dopamine cycle, and usually has to do with early childhood trauma or other traumas and dysregulated self-soothing mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas dependence is a physical issue. You can be dependent on cigarettes, you can be dependent on alcohol, on opioids, on kratom, all of those. Your body actually begins to change its own physiological outputs, and so that's when you have that rebound, and you can actually die as well from alcohol detox. Alcohol detox, in fact, more fatal than opioid detox.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Separately, you have addiction, and one can be addicted to video games, gambling, unsafe driving behaviors. That's really a push for control, feeling normalcy, or some sort of self-soothing and comfort, again, due usually to early childhood or early life trauma.
Right.
Just wanted to make that distinction between those incident
Mm-hmm.
or addictive behaviors.
And you can be chemically dependent on glucose. We all are chemically
Yes,
dependent
sir.
on glucose.
Fascinating.
Science Friday.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I got a few wrinkles in my brain from this conversation. Thank you all so much.
Great, we got a couple of them back in there. That's good.
That's right. We're going to roll into a commercial and we're going to be right back.